Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube and Facebook? I want to make this video to talk about the gun control and the mass shootings and basically how it's really all going to go down. A lot of people have this perception and idea that all of a sudden they're going to pass a bill within the next 30, 60, 90 days where they're just going to confiscate everybody's guns. And it really can't happen that way. You see, the first bill that they're going to end up passing is they're going to pass a bill that's going to ban semi-automatics and assault weapons and extended magazines and pistol grips and things of that type of nature. But it's not really going to ban it. What it'll do is it'll ban the sale of it. It'll increase taxes, like if someone dies, where like someone gives the gun to like a relative or the next of kin that passes on, and they'll tax ammunition and things of that nature. But they're not going to pass a bill where they can just come and take it, simply because everything isn't registered yet. I have a feeling that they're not even going to be able to pass some type of national registry for these type of firearms yet, because it's going to be tough to get that through. They're going to have more shootings in order for that to happen. So the first thing you're going to see is they're going to ban semi-autos in the sale of it. You're not going to be able to transfer semi-autos over if you own one and you want to sell it. You're not going to be able to do it by law. Gun shops won't be able to sell them, things of that nature, or you'll have to have a license, much like you have to get a license for a machine gun. You have to have a FFL, a Federal Firearms License, in order to own that, and once you buy it, you'll have to register it. The next step is going to be a national registry after another shooting happens, where they're going to tell everyone that you have to register all your firearms. Because a lot of states aren't like Massachusetts. Like in this state, any gun you have has to be registered, kind of like your car. You have to register that firearm that says that you own it, and then they know that you have it. So they're going to pass some type of bill where it becomes a national registry where everyone's supposed to register them. And of course, a lot of people are going to say, hey, I'm not down with that. I'm not going to go register my firearm. I don't want them knowing I have this. And they have ways of getting around that. See, like, what they'll simply do is the government will have like a subsidiary of the ATF, or they'll hire more ATF agents, and they'll simply go around the gun ranges dressed as normal people, or the sportsmen's clubs, and if they see you out shooting like an AR-15 or a type of weapon that happens to fall under the ban, or any weapon, if they want you to register all of them, and they'll say, hey, you know what, they'll pull out their badge and identification and say, I work with the ATF or so-and-so, we want to just check the registration of this firearm, and they'll take the serial number off it, and then they'll be able to go on their computer and type it in and see if it's registered or not. And if you haven't registered it, then they're going to arrest you and charge you with whatever they happen to decide to charge you with, and whatever the fine or jail time might be. And that'll end up scaring more people that are gun owners that want to go out and practice with their firearms, or are afraid of something happening in their home, or the police show up and they start to check like maybe a fire or a burglary or something, and to see if the guns are registered by running the serial numbers. After that step happens is when you're going to see more shootings will happen, and then they're going to call for the confiscation of the firearms. At that point, they'll do much like what the United Kingdom and Australia did, and they'll come out and say, hey, you have to turn in all your semi-automatic, or they'll name specific type of firearms, pump-action shotguns, firearms that hold high-round magazines, more than like 6 rounds or 8 rounds or whatever they designate it to be. And if you don't register your gun, or you don't turn in the gun that you have registered, like they'll have you on a list now of people that went and registered their guns, and that don't turn it in, well then they're going to arrest you, or they're going to come to your house and want it. Alright, so that will be the point when the shit will hit the fan scenario will start. This is going to be a long process. This isn't something like a lot of people have you in fear that they're just going to cram this down your throat, and within the next like 6 months they're going to be kicking down your door to take your guns, because they simply can't. They don't know who has the guns. There is no registry yet, so they don't have quite enough information on that yet to do that. So you're going to see more mass shootings, and like I honestly believe that these shootings are staged and set up and premeditated and known about before for various reasons. Like, let's take a couple of the shootings. For instance, we'll start with the Colorado shooting, James Holmes, which I've been on the radio on WCRN I was actually down at the studio on air to talk about this when it happened because there were so many inconsistencies with the story. For that one example, multiple people in the movie theaters reported two people, multiple gunmen. They saw a gas canister come from the back of the theater. Someone answered their cell phone and went and opened the door and let James Holmes in. They found gas masks outside the movie theater. James Holmes was completely decked out in tactical gear, bulletproof vest, like he was ready to engage the police, yet he sat outside in his car when the cops came, and he just went quietly, and then he proceeded to tell them how he booby-trapped the hell out of his apartment with all kinds of complex explosives, and the explosives were so highly complex that they actually had to call in military bomb squads to disarm these. They were that complex. All right. I think that was a programming that had failed. I think James Holmes was supposed to either A, battle it out with police, or B, take his own life, and the programming failed, and he did not end up going through with the complete programming that he was supposed to. Second shooting that we'll talk about real quick is the temple shooting. Type in temple shooting, all right? Multiple people inside that temple reported 4 gunmen. They all reported 4. It wasn't 3, it wasn't 2, it wasn't 6, it wasn't 1. They all said 4. Even on the police radio, they said they had reports of 4 gunmen inside the temple. They said, we've taken one of the gunmen down, 3 gunmen remain. Yet the official police report says there was only 1 gunman. Yet again, 1 gunman, but we have reports of multiple shooters from multiple witnesses, cell phone calls coming outside from the temple with people inside saying there's 4 white guys in here with guns, they're armed to the teeth, looks like they have rifles of some sort. So once again, multiple reports of multiple gunmen. Another shooting we'll take in case is this latest one, the Sandy Hook shooting. Nothing seems to add up in this shooting as well. Let's take some of the simple facts that you can research and find out real quick like that, rather than go over all the crazy, in-depth conspiracy stuff. The coroner made a statement to the press saying that he knows and he examined the bodies and saw 223 long rifle casings, which is basically a rifle casing fired out of a cheaper model AR-15. That he found rifle casings, and the bodies all had rifle wounds all over them. But yet, when the police report and the police said that they found him with only 2 handguns, and that the rifle was locked in the trunk of the car. Okay, so the rifle's in the trunk of the car, and they found the suspect dead inside with only 2 handguns, but yet everyone in the school was shot with a rifle. Sounds like something got screwed up on the information there. There was also reports from the news, all right, you watch the news helicopter flying over with a guy running out of the building dressed in fatigues and a black sweatshirt, and police took him into the custody, and we never heard anything else about that. Another strange thing is that the car that they said belonged to Adam Lanza didn't actually belong to Adam Lanza. That wasn't his car, it belonged to another man. You can go ahead and Google search that. If you want to get into the Sandy Hook actors theory, one of the parents that made a statement before he didn't know he was on camera. He was sitting there laughing and smiling and joking. And then he made the statement about how his daughter was killed, yet his daughter isn't listed as being in the class. There's no class photos of his daughter. And the girl that they said was killed that was his daughter, the very next day or 2 days after the shooting, there was pictures with this girl with Barack Obama wearing the same red dress that she was wearing in a family photo, and this girl is supposedly dead, but yet she's taking pictures with Barack Obama. So these shootings are staged. This is planned. This is a long, drawn-out process. It's a lot harder to get the firearms out of the hands of the American people than it is to get the firearms out of the hands of the Australians or the UK. And if you go research what happened in the UK and Australia, they had lots of shootings over there that didn't make any sense either, and the facts didn't add up, and the news would say one thing and the police would say another, and then you wouldn't really hear anything else about it. And, the people over there were willing to give up their firearms. They had already gone through the same process where they wanted people to register them first. People registered their guns, then they knew who had them. Then they said, you got 30 days to turn them in, you'll be a criminal, you'll be arrested, or we're going to come take them. So, like I said, this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. I'm guessing it's probably going to take a couple of years anyway, all right, for it to get to the point where they're actually going to be able to show up at your house and confiscate your firearms, or come out and say, you have to turn in your guns. If you don't, you're going to be arrested. We will come to your house and take them. The good thing about living in this country, and it's kind of scary to think about, is people here aren't going to just turn them in. People here, there are a lot of awake people that understand that the reason that we're allowed to have these type of firearms is not to go hunting with. Alright, yeah, it's for sport and target and they're fun to shoot, but it's to protect ourselves from an invading army, or from a tyrannical government, or from if something happened, like, you know, crazy, like the lights went out or something, or, you know, if there was an EMP bomb, you know, you'd be able to defend yourself from, like, you know, people going crazy. We're 72 hours away from chaos if the lights ever went out. Like, I honestly think less than that. As soon as the cabinets are empty and there's no more food in there, people are going to start looking at their neighbor's house, you know, they're going to want food. Once you start starving, it comes to a point of life or death, and you're going to start making decisions that you never would have made before. So, people are all amped up and scared about they're just going to kick down the doors and take your guns. It's a long, drawn-out process. I'm making this prediction now. There are going to be more mass shootings. There's probably going to be more kids being killed. I wouldn't doubt there's more shootings at places like malls, or at or more movie theaters, or out in public places. You know, possibly even like some you know, casinos, or the places that have low security. All right, you're going to see more shootings. Also in towns and cities that don't have lax gun laws. You don't see these type of shootings in areas that have extremely lax gun laws, because if you have a lax gun law, you're more apt to have people walking around that are carrying, and they're going to end the tragedy real fast. And then something that they wanted to look horrible, like, oh my God, all these people were killed by guns, they're going to have a hero there that takes down a killer with a gun, and then that's going to add credence to the whole thing that we need to have firearms, because they're going to be able to stop that. So I'm going to throw out some short statistics here for people. In Australia, when they took the firearms away from people, within 1 year, violent crime went up 45%. Alright? Yes, there was less gun violence, but violent crime and deaths by violent crime went up 45%. Also, a brand new phenomenon started over there, which is extremely rare, so rare, the statistics on it hardly even existed, of home invasions. Home invasions went up 20%. Alright? Not only that, but the violent crime went up. Let's just say it right there. The same thing happened in UK. Of course, over in UK and London, gun rates dropped, because over there, pretty much everyone turned in their guns. It wasn't like here where there'd still be guns everywhere, because America is flooded with firearms. If people turn in their firearms, there's still going to be hundreds of millions of firearms out there, because there's an estimated 400 million guns in this country, and that's only the ones that they estimate. There's probably more than that. I would imagine a lot more than that. Alright, so over there people turned in all their guns. The only people that had the guns were the cops and the criminals. And of course, the gun violence went down because there wasn't any guns. But with the gun violence going down, that also increased violent crime almost 50% in that country, which means like it went up 50%. That's an extreme amount. That would mean if there was 1,000 violent crimes, now it's 1,500 a year. And I don't know the exact numbers, I just know the percentages, but it's way more than that. So people make the argument that they took the guns, and of course there was less gun crime. But at the same time, there was more violent crime, more home invasions, more rapings, more beatings, more stabbings, you know, things of that nature. All right? More people are killed a year in this country by a hammer than they are by an assault rifle or a rifle of any type of nature, okay? So, I know, like, you know, me being spiritual and all, yes, I understand that, like, no one should even need guns because we still all love each other and not have these type of problems, but unfortunately that's not how the world is right now. We're on a tipping point, alright? And evil is trying to overtake the good. And the good will prevail in the end, but, you know, of course we're going to have to go through real trying times before the good will prevail in the end. And we need to be ready to protect ourselves and our loved ones for that to happen. You know, in China, alright, back in the 1940s, they took away their firearms, and once they took away the firearms in China, 20 million people that did not agree with the government were executed. 20 million people, and they killed those people, I think, in a matter of 4 or 5 years. That was around the same time that we were fighting Hitler. So we don't really know a lot. We didn't hear a lot about that then, but now you can go back and read history and find out about it. You know, that's a lot. 20 million people didn't agree with the government, but rounded up and executed because they were seen as a posing threat to the establishment that China had, the regime that they had, and they still have today. They just have different puppets in office. Hitler took the guns. You can watch interviews of people. You know, I watched one interview with a guy that survived the Holocaust and went through a concentration camp, and he said it. He said, you know, if we hadn't given up our guns before Hitler did what he did, he's like, I never would have went to the concentration camp, and neither would my family. He said we would have fought back. Now, of course, in the beginning of all that, a lot of people didn't exactly know what was going on. Hitler would, like, bomb a city, all right? And then he would come in with the troops and say, the Russians bombed the city, or the Polish bombed the city. You know, we need to get you out of here. We got to save you. They're going to bomb it again tonight. So that's why the people left all their belongings behind in the beginning. They were scared shitless that night they were going to get bombed again, you know. They watched the neighbor's house blow up next door. They were fucking scared. They're like, oh my God. They're like, we got to get out of here. This guy's getting us out of here. We're going to go with you. So they left all their belongings behind and trusted in them because news hadn't got out yet of the concentration camps and what was going on. And this was like in the late 30s, all right? So they went, you know, the early 40s. So they went, okay, willingly, trusting in their government. And where did they end up? They ended up at concentration camps. And by the time word had got out of what had really been going on, and that Hitler had been bombing the cities, and that he had been sending in troops dressed up like Polish troops and gunning down civilians to scare the shit out of them, to get them to willingly go, then it wasn't just the Jews that he rounded up. He rounded up a lot. He rounded up gypsies, political dissidents, the mentally retarded, the handicapped, you know, different religions. It wasn't just the Jews. The Jews were like a big main focus, and that's a whole other thing I can get into about how the SS started that and whatnot, but that's a whole another topic for another video or another time. Alright? So later on down the road, when these people had begun to find out, because news spread, you know, not fast like it does today on the internet. News had spread back then that, like, oh my God, you don't want to go with them. And that's where these things came from, like Anne's diary and stuff like that, and these secret rooms. They didn't have that the whole time. They weren't afraid of Hitler before that. They didn't know. They built these secret rooms because they were paranoid conspiracy theorists, all right, that, you know, like, oh my God, Hitler's he's dragging people off to concentration camps and killing them. We haven't heard from these people from this whole town since they got taken. So they built these secret rooms and hid out. But the truth still wasn't out there on the media and the news. There was a lot of propaganda being put out by the Nazis. And that's why a lot of people will compare today's America to Nazi Germany, because before Nazi Germany was what we consider Nazi Germany, they had a lot of the same stuff, you know. They staged the fire at the Reichstag building. Hitler went and bombed the Reichstag building, and then blamed it on a homeless man that was mentally retarded and said he was an operative. And then that wasn't enough. You know, with that they formed Right Security, and they were able to form all these groups, much like we have here, like Department of Homeland Security and stuff like that. And then once they had all these security groups set up, and they had like paperwork on all the people, and they started confiscating the firearms, the next thing he did was he went and blew up a radio station, and he took a bunch of Polish prisoners that he had captured, and he dressed them up in Polish military uniforms and shot them outside the radio station, and said that Poland blew up the radio station, and that there was this big firefight with the German troops and the Polish that blew up the radio station, and that's how he got the people behind the war to go over into Poland. It's kind of like the same thing that happened here with 9/11, and we're not even going to get into that either, but like, it's the same scenario. You know, they cause these things and they scare the hell out of the people into believing the propaganda, you know, and then unfortunately for us, enough people are waking up now that it's not like back then where it was too late for a lot of them. Not enough of them had built those secret rooms to hide. They had already lost their firearms and they had no way to stand up. But over here with the information age and everything that's come out, we have the information and we have the ability to protect and defend ourselves. And if we give up our firearms and we allow them to take our firearms, just like what happened under Stalin's reign in Russia, just like what happened under Hitler and Mao and Lenin, they all took the guns. They all took the guns. and then tyranny ensued. Millions who didn't agree with the government or that they thought were useless were slaughtered. They were killed. They were gotten rid of. And if you think that history doesn't repeat itself, you better research history, because it always does. So that's my video on this, about how I think the gun thing is going to happen, and we're going to see more shootings over time. It's going to be an incremental step to them passing laws and legislation to take them. They're not just going to pass this one law where they come take the guns. But this video here is a little bit for people to think about. And I'm sorry I haven't been making a lot of videos on YouTube. I've been busy. I should probably make more with all the information that I have. But thanks to all my subscribers and everyone that watches and listens to me. And thanks to everyone on Facebook who is awake and those who are interested in this, even if you keep quiet about it. A lot of people message me and ask me questions, and you know, I try to get back to those who I can. But like I said, I'm really busy. Sometimes I'll just send some videos to watch. But do your research on this. You know, everything I said is true, and it is what it is, and I'm going to leave this video like I leave all my videos, but be real, be safe, peace out, and keep truthing. And don't ever give up your firearms, and always protect yourself. Stand up for liberty, because we will defeat the New World Order.